on both occasions.
Question number 9, the Honourable David Cunliffe. Now order. The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister of Finance, if he expects at least 85 to 90% of the state-owned assets he intends to privatise would remain in New Zealand's ownership, including the Crown's holding, what percent of the shares he intends to sell would be bought by foreign buyers?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it is hard to say because the percentage acquired by overseas buyers will depend on demand from local investors. We expect the demand from local investors will be strong between households, KiwiSaver funds, Crown financial institutions and other funds. They have the capacity to buy and hold most or all of the stock offered if they choose to do so. Moreover, many local investors are likely to take a buy and hold approach. For this reason, we expect the portion eventually bought by overseas bidders would likely to be small. But as I said, we can't say for sure what it would be.
Honourable David Cunliffe.
Supplementary, if by his own admission it's 10 to 20% of the total, 10 to 15% of the total, and he's only selling half, isn't that 20 to 30% of what is actually sold?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's a bit like the member counting the number of people who aren't voting for David Cunliffe in the Labour caucus, isn't it? It's, of course, mathematically that's possible. But when the member puts it that way, it makes me realise that the 85 to 90% may be too conservative.
Order. The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr. Speaker, has Minister 2% reassessed the business case for asset sales in light of the increased $900 million in dividends, excluding Genesis, which is yet to report? And can he confirm that this recent increase in the dividend stream would be lost to the New Zealand taxpayer if his sale program goes ahead?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, no, I can't. I mean, if the government is the government would be the 51% owner, and so the government would receive 51% of the dividends. The $900 million figure that the member quotes includes a one-off payment associated with the asset swap in the South Island, and as do a lot of the previous dividend figures that he quotes. In fact, the underlying dividend is only about $380 million.
David Bennett.
Oh, yes.
Supplementary question.
This will be good.
What successes of firms operating mixed ownership models has he seen?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I've already mentioned the Air New Zealand, who have operated as a mixed ownership company for some years because they were set up that way by the previous Labour government. Another similar case is the Port of Tauranga, who are 55% owned by the Bay of Plenty Regional Council and who have experienced in recent years a growing proportion of New Zealand ownership because they are a well-run and profitable company. Their share price has almost doubled in value over the past 3 years, making it close to the best performing stock on the New Zealand Stock Exchange. And the government would expect that if these companies are floated, they will also be high-performing stocks on the New Zealand Stock Exchange.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Speaker, given that the carnage in international share markets has seen New Zealand's listed energy stocks fall by 20% already this year, and given that's a number the Minister's well acquainted with, has he revised downwards the expected proceeds of selling Genesis, Meridian and Mighty River Power, and if so, by how much?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that the volatility in those share markets, I think, underlines the wisdom of the government's decision, which that member has opposed, to go and borrow billions of dollars and invest New Zealanders' money on those foreign share markets through the super fund. With respect to guesses about the funds that might flow from a float, The Treasury has made a best estimate some time ago, and conditions, the government would be want to make the best of conditions at the time, but no, we haven't revised that estimate.
Mr. Speaker, how much lower would equity markets have to plummet before the government suspended its asset sales program, or would it sell at any price because it is driven by ideology, not value for taxpayers?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr. Speaker, the government is not driven by ideology in this case. In this case, it wants to provide opportunities for New Zealand savers to invest and to source capital to invest in hospitals, schools and broadband, so we don't have to borrow it off foreign lenders and pay them interest.
Order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, the Honourable
The
David
Minister
Cameron.
hasn't addressed the question, which was by how much lower would equity markets have to fall?
Yeah, but if the member had stopped his question at that point, it would have been fine. But he went on to talk about whether it was driven by something or ideology, and the Minister quite appropriately answered that part of the question, or at least in his judgment. Pardon me. Question number 10, Nikki Wagner.